to the northern tip of Vancouver Island. So a warning does mean that if you are low-lying areas, move to higher ground immediately. Now, the earthquake actually struck just 10 minutes before 1 a.m., about 12:50 a.m. Pacific time. I've just put together that rough warning graphic. This is where the west coast of BC is under a warning for a potential tsunami threat. As Shannon also mentioned, we're starting to get reports of a tsunami. I've put that in the red square there, in through Port Alexander, where the West Coast Pacific Tsunami Warning Center has reported a 0.1 meter or a half a foot meter tsunami. And again, remember, tsunamis are not waves, they're actual walls of water. So a small tsunami has been generated, and we're not sure how that will translate as it moves down the west coast. A tsunami wave moves at speeds greater than 200 kilometers per hour, but as you can imagine, starting at the top end of BC on the border of Alaska, moving down towards Vancouver Island, think about how long that would take if you were taking a plane ride. So we're not expected to see the waves in through Vancouver Island for another 30 minutes or so. And again, we're not exactly sure when and if and what those waves will look like once it makes its way into Vancouver Island. The actual plate is the Queen Charlotte plate, and this is the same plate boundary that ruptured back in October, that 7.7 earthquake. Now, this earthquake, 7.5, is the latest that the USGS has issued it, so slightly less strong than the 7.7. It is north of the earthquake we saw back in October. So this is a new earthquake. It's outside of the rupture zone, or the part of that fault that split during that October earthquake. So this is a new section of the Queen Charlotte plate that was locked and has now ruptured. We've seen a couple of aftershocks, 4.6 and 4.7, since that initial earthquake. I imagine there's probably dozens happening right now as that new section of the fault slips into place. I've actually taken this graphic from Resource Canada. I was actually across at the island just a few weeks ago talking about this October earthquake, and this was a graphic they put out. I've put on in blue the latest earthquake. You can see on the northern tip of the Queen Charlotte Island, that's the earthquake that occurred in October. And just north of the 7.5, just a few hours ago, there's another earthquake. That was in 1972, 7.6. So it looks like this earthquake occurred on a portion of the fault that was experiencing strain and was looking to break. So that's what happened under the ground. And again, a small tsunami was generated. We're not sure how that'll translate once it moves down the coast. And we're watching for reports. I'm checking the water buoys to see what's happened with the water levels.
Okay, Johanna, thank you. I'm going to ask you to stay on the line here and listen in right now, because I'm about to speak with Julianne McCaffrey. She's with Emergency Management British Columbia, joining us from Victoria on the phone. So as Johanna listens in Victoria, Julianne, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I guess my first question should be, what do we know at this moment in time in the areas that should be under special advisory in British Columbia right now?
Well, we have seen the numbers decrease. Originally it was a 7.7, and then as is normal with these kind of events, it's reduced to a 7.6, and now we are resting at a 7.5 magnitude. Now, in terms of how that relates in terms to risk, we now have our areas of concern. The advisory has been cancelled for the southern BC area. That's zone C and D. We are
sorry to interrupt, Julia. When you say zone C and D, what communities are you actually speaking about?
You're talking about the western side of Vancouver Island, north and south. So the areas that remain under warning is zone A and B. So the areas that we're talking about, that region is the north coast and Haida Gwaii, and the central coast along Bella Bella and Bella Coola Shearwater area.
Now, what is your advice to the people where tsunami advisory is